so let's begin. Snehashish, I'm not aware about this. This thing can only be cleared by the institute, so you'll have to ask the institute regarding that. Right? Right? All right. I'm not aware of your test. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe it may be possible. Let us go ahead now. So yesterday I told you that we'll be discussing about the criteria that is used for classifying a particular animal into the list of critically endangered, vulnerable category. So let us look into what are these criteria. Is the screen visible to each and every one of you? I will share these notes with you today. All right, whatever we'll be doing, I'll be sharing that thing with you. Yeah, so let us look at the criteria that is used for classifying a species as critically endangered. Then we'll be looking at the criteria used for endangered, and then finally we'll look for the criteria that is used for vulnerable. All right, these three categories have a well-defined criteria. All right, these three categories have a well-defined criteria for classification. So there are three dimensions that are taken care of when classifying a particular scheme in any of the criteria. The first we look into is known as reduction, or you can say population reduction. The first criteria is population reduction. That is, by what percentage the population of a particular species has reduced. By what percentage the population of a particular species has reduced, this is known as population reduction. Second, the number of mature individuals. Second criteria is number of mature individuals. The third criteria that is used is nothing but what is the probability of extinction in the wild of the species according to the quantitative analysis based on the current statistics of a particular species, based on the current number, based on the current reproduction, based on the current population size. What is the probability that a population is going to, an animal is going to get extinct? On that basis, we can classify the animals in the red data book under the categories such as critically endangered, endangered, and vulnerable. So let us look at the first criteria. And the first criteria that we are going to discuss is nothing but population reduction. Critically endangered, criteria for critically endangered species. So if a particular species has lost a significant, yes, correct, Asini, you can say the second criteria is the small size of the population. If a particular species has lost a significant amount of its population, if it has very less number of mature individuals who are capable of reproduction, and a species that has high probability of extinction in the wild, that particular species will be classified as critically endangered. So if we talk statistically, if a species has got its population reduced by 90%, suppose if a population was 10 lakh, all right, and if less than 1 lakh population is left, then the reduction of population of this particular species is 90%. And this criteria is enough to classify the population into critically endangered. So one of the criteria is that the species must have lost a significant number of population in last 10 years. In the last 10 years, 90% of the population has been lost. This is the first criteria. Second criteria, if a particular species has less than 50 mature individuals, 50 or less than 50 mature individuals, that species will automatically qualify under the category of critically endangered species. The third criteria is that on the basis of the quantitative models or analysis, if it is found out that the probability of extinction in the wild of a particular species is more than 50% in next 10 years, then also that particular species can be put into the criteria or category of critically endangered. Mature individuals. What do you understand by mature individuals? What is mature individuals? Mature individuals are reproductively active individuals. Mature individuals are reproductively active. Those who are capable of carrying out reproduction. All right. Is there any formula to find this probability? Priyanka, there must be a formula, but we don't have to at all worry about that formula. That will certainly go beyond the scope of this class or this topic for that matter. All right. So we can leave it. The criteria is certainly there. All right. They have calculated the probability by a proper mathematical formula, but we don't have to understand that. All right. So by calculating the existing population, by calculating the rate of decline of population, it is calculated that what is the probability of extinction in the wild. And if the probability of extinction in the wild is more than 50% in next 10 years, matlab, there are more than 50% chances that a population will get extinct in the wild in next 10 years, then this population will fall into the critically endangered criteria. Quantitative is mathematical model. The word quantitative, Ayushi, the word quantitative is used for mathematical models. Quantitative models are mathematical models. Clear, everyone? It is anticipation, correct. It is prediction. Probability, hai na? It is probability. So probability deals with prediction. Now, one thing that must be clear to you, it's not necessary that all the three criteria must be fulfilled. It is not necessary that all the three criteria have to be fulfilled. Any one of the criteria is fulfilled, you can classify that particular species in the critically endangered species. One of the criteria. Maybe the model is predicting that 80% chance that the species will not get extinct. But the population reduction is 90%. Then also you have to put it into critically endangered. All right. Is it clear, everyone? The first is critically endangered category. We have done it. Let us look at the second criteria. And the second criteria is the endangered criteria. In the endangered criteria, there must be at least 70% reduction in the population size. That is, if we start with 10 lakh individuals, in the last 10 years, this number has reduced to 3 lakh or less. 3 lakh or less. Then this species can be put into the category of endangered EN. All right, this has to be EN. You have to put this species in the category of endangered. Now, what if it falls to 1 lakh or less than 1 lakh? What if this number 3 lakh falls to 1 lakh or less than 1 lakh? Then what? Critically endangered. Very good. Very good. That's right. Second, this species must have just 250 mature individuals. In critically endangered, it was 50. In endangered, it is 250. This species must have 250 or less mature individuals. So I'm not writing 51 to 250. Why? Because it is already understood that if it touches 50, it will automatically fall into the category of CR. This is the category of endangered. Right? It is understood. So there is no point in giving the range. Then the quantitative model, the quantitative model, it must predict that if things go on as they are going, the probability of extinction in the wild is 20% or more in next 20 years. Pay attention here. It is 20% or more probability of extinction in next 20 years. You contrast it with critically endangered. It is more than 50% in 10 years. Here it is 20 years. Right? Then what is the criteria for classification in the third category, that is vulnerable? VU. All right, so just correct it, VU. In VU, vulnerable category, oh sorry, that's UV I have put it. It has to be vulnerable. So if the reduction in the population size in last 10 years is at least 50%, then you can put the species into the vulnerable category. If the species has 10,000 or less than 10,000 mature individuals, you can put it in vulnerable category. And if the quantitative model predict that the extinction in the wild, the probability that the species will be extinct in the wild is at least 10% in next 100 years. We focus here, it is 100 years. Yes, I'm going to share this page with you. Don't worry, need not worry at all. All right, Kritika. Then also you can put the species into vulnerable category. Am I right? Now, let me give you a test here. There's a question. Let us call that there's a species X. This species X is having this species, because Hasini, that is critically endangered. वहाँ पे आपको 10 years का ही देखना पड़ेगा. So you have put 10 years for critically endangered, 20 years for endangered, and you have put 100 years for vulnerable when you are calculating the probability of extinction in the wild. No, Rohit, you have to understand this particular formula. What does it say? What is the probability? What is the probability that entire species will get into the category of extinction in the wild in next 100 years? If it is 10% or more than 10%, the species can be made vulnerable. And if the model says that this probability is 23% in next 20 years, it will automatically become endangered. And if this model says that there is a probability of 60% that in the next 10 years this species will become extinct, it will automatically fall into critically endangered. Right? So do not think 10% of the population will be lost. No, entire population will be lost in the wild. Yes, that's right. So automatically in the critically endangered, we focus more. So let us come to this test that I am taking of yours. So there's a species X. All right. This species is having 20,000 mature individuals. This species is having probability of extinction in the wild as 28% in next 20 years. This species X is having 20,000 mature individuals, or let's change it to 8,000. 8,000 mature individuals. And its population reduced from 20 lakh to 1,98,000. Then in which category will you put it? CR, endangered, or vulnerable? Very good. Very, very good. Nice. I am getting mix of answers. Brilliant. है ना? बहुत बढ़िया. Let us look at the first criteria. If you look at the first criteria alone, that it has 8,000 mature individuals. This criteria is of which category? Less than 10,000, more than 250. Very good. This criteria is of vulnerable. Probability of extinction in the wild is at least 20% in next 20 years. What is the second criteria? What is the second criteria? Very good. Endangered. Now, if you have to choose between first and second criteria, with which criteria will you go? With what criteria will you go? Very good. Out of these two, you will choose endangered. Out of vulnerable and endangered, you will choose endangered because endangered has greater threat level. Because endangered has greater threat level. So you will go with endangered, my dear friends. Now let us look at the third criteria. Third criteria says that population reduced from 20 lakhs to just 1,98,000. What is 10%? What is 90% of 20 lakhs? What is 19% of 20 lakhs? 18 lakhs. That means at least 18 lakh or more than 18 lakh of the population must have died. So how many population is left? 1,98,000. That means 18 lakh 2,000 people, individuals have died. That is, it is a reduction of more than 90% population reduced. Now you tell me, the third criteria is the category of critically endangered. Now, out of endangered and out of critically endangered, which one will you choose? Very good. You will choose critically endangered. This is the toughest question that can be asked from biodiversity in your UPSC exam. इससे tough नहीं बन सकता. Right? So there are three criteria. If there are three criteria given, one is of vulnerable, second is of endangered, and third is of critically endangered, choose the critically endangered. If there is vulnerable or endangered, any one criteria, choose the endangered. All right? It's okay. Shivraj, it's perfectly fine. Out of these three criteria, any one of them has to be fulfilled to place the category, to place the species into critically endangered criteria. Out of these three criteria, any one of them has to be involved for putting the species into endangered criteria, and any one of them is required for vulnerable. It's not necessary all the three must be fulfilled. Any one of them is as good as all the three. And if all the three of different categories are given, then choose the one which is having the greatest threat perception. Done? So I think that this is not even taught in many of the environment classes across India who are preparing for civil services. Rarely you are taught this thing, but now you know something additional. That's good. Appreciate this. All right. Yes, the correct answer is critically endangered. The correct answer is critically endangered. Right? Chale aage? Good. Now we are going to talk about something known as climate change. Climate change. No, Mashinda, no 50 years to be counted. It has to be 10, 20, 100. All right. That model is based on this criteria. Critically endangered. Khushi, critically endangered. All right. I am again making it once again clear. If one criteria is of vulnerable, if one criteria is of endangered, and if one criteria is of critically endangered, choose the critically endangered, ignoring vulnerable and endangered, because critically endangered has the greater threat perception. All right. Critically endangered has greater threat perception. Now let's discuss climate change. Jalvayu Parivartan. All right, climate change is basically known as जलवायु परिवर्तन. What is climate? Geography हो गई आप लोगों की? Is your geography done? All right. Okay. What is climate? What is the difference between climate and weather? Very good. Yes. Weather is atmospheric condition on a day-to-day basis. Weather is atmospheric condition on a daily variance. So today it's raining. All right. So today it is raining. So the weather is rainy day. This rainy day is a weather. All right. Tomorrow it's a clear sky. So clear sky is the weather. So weather is the daily variance in atmospheric conditions. The daily variance in atmospheric conditions, my dear friends, is known as weather. And when this weather is averaged over a period of 50 years, this average is known as climate. This average is known as climate. So when you average out the weather over the period of 50 years, this gives you the climatic conditions. Yes, that's right. It's a good way to remember. You always listen on the news weather forecast. You never listen to climate forecast, right? You generally ask, okay, what is the climate of India? That can be predicted. You cannot say, what is the weather of India? It's not, it doesn't make sense because weather vary on a daily basis and weather vary from place to place. Weather vary very significantly from place to place. It may be possible right now it is raining in Delhi, it is clear sky in Chandigarh. But then it's a summer climate throughout India, right? So weather varies from place to place very quickly and on a daily basis, whereas climate is the average weather conditions over a period of 50 years. That makes up the climate. That makes up the climate, right? So this is the difference between weather and climate. Now, when computer models, predict a change in the climate, predict, or you can say not predict, prove the change in the climate, then you call this particular phenomena as climate change. This phenomena is known as climate change. That is, when the computer models which average out the weather of past 50 years, when they predict or when they prove or when they detect, yes, when they detect the change in the climate, this particular phenomena is known as climate change. And climate change brings drastic changes in the weather also, right? So now we have to look into climate change. Why climate change? Why the climate is changing? Climate can change because of multiple reasons. And this time, this particular, or we can say this time in the geological history, the climate change is driven by what is driving climate change this time? The climate change is driven by what? Global warming. Very good. This time the climate change is driven by global warming. Before this global warming, there was, like for example, you must have heard about Pleistocene ice age. Pleistocene ice age. This Pleistocene ice age was also a climate change, but it was because of global cooling This time also we are witnessing climate change, but this time it is of global warming. So the climate change this year, not this year, the climate change this particular time in the geological history, in the history of Earth, is driven by what is known as global warming. Global warming is nothing but rise in, it is nothing but rise in average temperature of Earth's atmosphere. Rise in average temperature of Earth's atmosphere. This, my dear friends, is known as global warming. And why is this global warming is taking place? The question is, why global warming? Why global warming? Very good. Due to increased greenhouse effect. Due to increased greenhouse effect. Now, what is this greenhouse effect? What is the greenhouse effect? So let us have a look at the global cooling. Bhagyashree, Pleistocene Ice Age was because of the global reduction in temperatures or global cooling. All right. Let us look at what is greenhouse effect. This is sun. Sun emits radiations. What is the radiation that is emitted by sun? In what range or what we can call it? We can call it UV to visible range. All right. Sun emit radiations in ultraviolet to visible range. Ozone layer of our Earth's atmosphere take up UV, and on the surface we receive what is known as visible light. Visible light. This visible light along with ultraviolet is having small wavelength. And high energy. All right. The ozone layer in stratosphere, correct? Stratosphere absorbs ultraviolet light such that on the surface of the earth we receive visible light, and visible light along with ultraviolet light have small wavelength and high energy. You know, energy of a wave is represented by hc by lambda. Lambda is the wavelength, c is the speed of light, and h is Planck's constant. So this is the energy. So because wavelength is small, energy is high. All right. Because wavelength is small, energy is high. Now, it is the phenomena of some particles, some materials, they allow short wavelength light, short wavelength energy to pass through them, and they block the long wavelength. They block the long wavelength. Right? 3 lakh kilometers per second. Vaishnav, the speed of light is 3 lakh kilometers per second, not 1 lakh. So they allow the short wavelength energy to pass through, but long wavelength they do not allow. For example, glass. This is sun. This is glass. Glass will allow sunlight to pass through. Glass allows the sunlight to pass through. All right. So this is small wavelength. So the direct source of energy generally produces energy in small wavelength criteria, high energy segment, and therefore materials like glass allow the short wavelength or high energy to pass through them. Clear? Okay? No issues? Good. Let's go ahead now. However, now you see, this is Earth. This is Sun. Sun's energy is absorbed by Earth. Sun's energy is absorbed by Earth. Now, will Earth heat up? Will Earth heat up because of heating by Sun? Yes. The Earth will be, or the Earth will heat up because it is being directly impacted by the energy coming from the Sun. It is a phenomenon when a heated object cools down, it emits light or energy in infrared range. In infrared range. You see, Sun is giving you visible light, ultraviolet light. Sun is giving you visible light and ultraviolet light. They are in small wavelength and high energy criteria, high energy category. But when a heated object cools down, it emits light in the infrared region. This infrared range or the infrared region, it has high wavelength. It has high wavelength, large wavelength. All right, let's not call it high, let's call it, it has large wavelength. The wavelength is large. And because the wavelength is large, the energy will be low. Why? Because E is equal to hc by lambda. So if the energy is large, energy is going to be low. So wavelength is large, energy is low. So this glass, like materials, they do not allow infrared or large wavelength radiation to pass through. Clear? This phenomena is known as greenhouse effect. This phenomena is known as greenhouse effect, in which the material allows the short wavelength high energy radiation to pass through, but blocks the low energy large wavelength radiation. This phenomena is known as greenhouse effect, and this name comes from the greenhouses which are made in the colder regions for growing vegetation. You must have seen that in hilly areas or in colder areas, vegetation is grown inside the glass house. Vegetation is grown inside the glass house. Why? Because the glass will allow the sunlight to come in, but will not allow the the reflected infrared light to go out, such that the temperature of the greenhouse will increase and vegetation can grow. All right. Now think about this scenario. अभी गर्मी का टाइम चल रहा है. This is right now summer time, right? This is right now summer time, and when you park your car in sun and when you open the door, don't you think that the car inside is very hot compared to what the temperature is outside? The same phenomena is happening there. It is the greenhouse effect that raises the temperature of the car. If the outside temperature is 40 degrees Celsius, the inside temperature can be very easily 80 degree, 90 degrees Celsius. People get killed when they are not able to open their window. Every time in the summer time in India, you hear the news channels reporting that children were locked inside the car and they died because of this increase in temperature. Right? Okay. So this phenomena is known as greenhouse effect. Now, the greenhouse effect is also shown by Earth's atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere has some components, and these components show greenhouse effect. These components show greenhouse effect. Yeah, okay. ये मैंने आपको ये बताया ना that the sun heats the earth, and whenever any hot object emit out radiation, that radiation is in the form of infrared radiation. So Earth emit infrared. Earth emit infrared radiation. All right, Ayushi. हाँ, देखिए now like Albright Samarjun has asked a question during night. There is a black body radiation law. As you absorb, as you emit, right? So it absorbs during the day, and it emits even during the day as well as night. But during the day, absorption process is higher than emission. All right, Arjun? Yes. So it goes on 24/7. Earth absorbs so much of energy during the day that it continue emitting even during the night. So this emission goes on 24/7, and this emission, Ayushi, is in the form of infrared radiation. You see that, like for example, Arpitanjali says, why on sunny days nights are comparatively warm than normal? Because of the emission of radiation by Earth. All right, this Earth radiation goes 24/7. Right, yeah, okay. Now, oh, okay. ठीक है. All right. Okay. Thank you. That was answer to the question. Okay. Now, you see that sometimes there is a infrared sensor, And any kind of warm object is shown as red, right? And the cold object is shown as blue. This temperature gun, which is very much in fashion these days because of COVID-19, it actually measures the infrared signal coming from your body. It is not measuring the temperature of your skin. It is looking at how much infrared radiation is pumped out by your body. Your body is having 37 degrees Celsius and outside temperature is 25. अगर हम आपका infrared sketch बनाएंगे, you will be appearing red in color because your body is emitting infrared radiations, right? But if there is a direct source of energy, bright source of energy, it will emit UV or visible. Yeah, let's go ahead now. Now, Earth's atmosphere also shows the greenhouse effect because of presence of certain components. What are these components? Water vapor. The first component is water vapor. Second, carbon dioxide. Third, nitrogen oxides. Fourth, sulfur dioxides. Fifth, chlorofluorocarbons. Sixth, hydrofluorocarbons. Seventh, sulfur hexafluoride. These are the various components in Earth's atmosphere that, yes, methane, very good, methane. These are various components in Earth's atmosphere, pardon me, for CFC. Sixth is HFCs and seventh is SFCs. And methane is also there. Eighth is methane. Now, is greenhouse effect bad? First question that I want to ask you, is greenhouse effect bad? Yes or no? The greenhouse effect is not bad. No. Why? Because the greenhouse effect sustains life on Earth. The greenhouse effect keep Earth's average temperature as 15 degrees Celsius. Greenhouse effect keep Earth's average temperature as 15 degrees Celsius. Without greenhouse effect, Earth's temperature would have been how much? Minus 19 degrees Celsius. Earth's temperature would have been minus 19 degrees Celsius. Everything would have been frozen. No life. So greenhouse effect is not bad. Greenhouse effect is essential for sustaining life. Greenhouse effect keep Earth's average temperature as 15 degrees Celsius. Without greenhouse effect, Earth's temperature would have been minus 19 degrees Celsius. No life would have been present on Earth. But then, why so much of hue and cry? Because increased greenhouse effect will result into global ice melt. Global ice melt. This will raise ocean temperatures. Oh, sorry, this will raise open ocean levels. And When ocean levels will rise, coastal cities will be submerged. And coastal cities have a huge population and dominate the economy. All right, dominate the economy of the countries. This increased greenhouse effect will alter weather patterns. This will alter weather patterns, and weather patterns have resulted into the current settlements. The current settlements of human population are the result of the existing weather patterns, and if the existing weather patterns will change, then human settlements have to shift. It is happening that deserts are getting rain, rainforests are experiencing drought. It is happening now. These are all the examples of climate change. Last week in Canada, in the British Columbia region, there is a town called Lytton. It experienced 49.5 degrees Celsius temperature, and it is close to 45-degree north latitude or more than that. Can you see this thing? This is not, this never happened in Lytton. People in Canada, in British Columbia, did not even own fans. AC is a way too far thing for them. They don't have fan because of the cool climate. And now it is changing. All because of global warming. All because of global warming. That's right. A69 area of Antarctica is melting. Correct. Arctic Ocean is already melt. Arctic Ocean has already melted, such that now the ships are passing through North Pole. This shows, oh, these all are the impacts of global warming. These all are the impacts of global warming. Clear? Right? So global warming is bad. Global warming is bad. It is resulting into huge impact on life. Acha, secondly, global warming can also result into many diseases. Many diseases. The countries which never had a case of malaria, those countries are now witnessing presence of mosquitoes, and malaria is increasing. Skin disease is increasing. This Antarctic ice, it has many viruses suppressed or trapped in ice, such that when these viruses will be left loose, it may cause many other diseases. So global warming is bad for human population, and we have to check these. Now let's look at the agents of global warming. Let us look at the agents of global warming. Who is the largest agent of global warming? Carbon dioxide or water vapor? Who is the largest agent of global warming? Very good. बहुत बढ़िया. जिनको पता है that maximum, चलो I'll tell you. Somebody asked how malaria. Malaria because mosquitoes cannot live in cool weather, cold climate, but because of climate change, the cold climate is receding, such that these mosquitoes have found a way to even those areas where they were earlier not found. So now they will be causing Now they will be causing malaria there, right? Virus is trapped. There are many virus cause. There are many you can say agents, disease causing agents which are trapped in thousands of years old ice in Antarctica. People are apprehending. People are apprehending it. Chaliye, let's now come to the agents of global warming. Now, before answering this question, if I ask you a question, what shows more greenhouse effect? What shows more greenhouse effect? Carbon dioxide or water? The answer is water. Water vapor. Water vapor has higher greenhouse effect than carbon dioxide. This is correct. This is correct. Water vapor has higher greenhouse effect than carbon dioxide. Now, based on this information, what will be the answer of the above question, that which is greater, which is greater global warming agent? The answer is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. नहीं, they absorb. Mashinder, they absorb the infrared coming from earth. जो अर्थ का सरफेस है ना, the land, it emit infrared, reflect back, absorb energy of the sun. This absorbed energy of the sun is trapped by carbon dioxide, water vapor, it is trapped by methane, it is trapped by nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, HCF, SF6. Now let us resolve this doubt. Sir, you said that water vapor has higher greenhouse effect than carbon dioxide. Then why you are writing that carbon dioxide has, or carbon dioxide is a bigger agent of global warming? The reason is water vapor, if it increase in the atmosphere, it is suddenly precipitated. It is suddenly precipitated in the form of rain. In the form of rain. As water vapor, as water vapor increases in atmosphere, before it can add to greenhouse effect, it is suddenly precipitated in the form of rain, snow, whatever the thing is. So despite H2O having higher greenhouse effect, it does not contribute to global warming. And global warming is therefore majorly a result of carbon dioxide. I'm coming to it. All right. I'm coming to ozone depletion. Hold on, be patient. यहाँ तक clear है? All right. So out of H2O vapor and carbon dioxide is the major cause behind global warming. Now, I'm giving you some items. Try to understand here. I'm coming to it. Grishmika. देखिए Grishmika, why I'm saying that carbon dioxide is the cause? Because carbon dioxide can absorb, can prevent infrared radiations from leaving the atmosphere. Right? You see, this is Earth. This is Earth atmosphere. All right, let's call it as Earth. And this is atmosphere. Atmosphere act as a glass. Atmosphere act as a glass. So sun's energy can come to Earth's surface, but Earth's energy will be trapped if the concentration of greenhouse gases increase. And more the energy is trapped, the greater will be the temperature of the atmosphere, and this is known as global warming. This is known as global warming, right, Grishmika? Now you understand. So if carbon dioxide is present here, carbon dioxide will not let infrared radiation leave the atmosphere. So there are certain greenhouse gases. These greenhouse gases, they are responsible for global warming. They are responsible for global warming. They are responsible for global warming. Right? Greenhouse gases include carbon dioxide. Greenhouse gases include, you can say, nitrogen oxide. It includes sulfur dioxide. It includes methane. It includes sulfur hexafluoride. It includes hydrochlorofluorocarbons. All right. These are the gases in atmosphere whose concentration, if it increases, will result into greater greenhouse effect. So these are the greenhouse gases. So carbon dioxide concentration, if it increases, greenhouse effect will increase. Nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, methane, sulfur hexafluoride, and hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs. Hydrofluorocarbons, if their concentration increases, they will add to global warming. Please note, I have not put up H2O vapor in the list of greenhouse gases. I have not put H2O vapors in the list of greenhouse effect. Right? Because H2O vapor is natural, and H2O vapor, if it increases, it also cools down substantially and quickly. It also cools down substantially and quickly. Now, among these gases, which are the greenhouse gases, some gases cause more heating than others. Some gases cause more heating than others. Let us compare them then. If we talk about the heating potential, then sulfur hexafluoride causes the maximum greenhouse effect, followed by perfluorocarbons, followed by hydrochlorofluorocarbons. All right, HFC हो गई, followed by nitrogen oxide, followed by methane, followed by carbon dioxide. Maximum heating is caused by sulfur hexafluoride, then perfluorocarbons, then hydrofluorocarbons, nitrogen oxide, methane, and the least is carbon dioxide. Compared to carbon dioxide, one molecule of sulfur hexafluoride causes 23,900 times more global warming than carbon dioxide. 1 kilogram of sulfur hexafluoride will cause 23,900 times more heating than 1 kilogram of carbon dioxide. Remember this sequence, very, very important. Right? Now, if I ask you, among above written gases, which gas is the largest contributor to global warming? Which gas is the largest contributor to global warming? Very good. Answer is carbon dioxide. Why? Because no matter if sulfur hexafluoride is 23,900 times more powerful than carbon dioxide, but the concentration of carbon dioxide is way, way, way higher than. Quantity of CO2 is much, much higher than other greenhouse gases. Therefore, despite carbon dioxide is not as potential as SF6, even then carbon dioxide is dictating the global warming on Earth. All right, so this is how UPSC glitch the students. They make the students understand that SF6 has the highest warming potential, but then carbon dioxide is the gas that is dominating the global warming because of its quantity. If you look at the gases in the atmosphere, which gas is maximum or which gas is present in the maximum concentration in the atmosphere? Very good, nitrogen, followed by oxygen. Third, what is third? Third is argon. Fourth is carbon. This is the reason. Sulfur hexafluoride is present in very minutest of the traces, almost 0%. PFC almost 0%, HFC almost 0%, nitrogen oxide almost 0%, methane almost 0%, but carbon dioxide is present in some really good concentration, 0.001%, I guess, 0.03%. Thank you. 0.03%. Please correct me if I'm wrong. 0.03%. Argon is 0.93 if I'm not wrong. Argon is 0.93. Confirm it once. All right. I'm not sure about exact figures. I don't remember the figures at all. 0.93% is argon. All right. 78% is nitrogen. What is the percentage of oxygen? 21. All right. And the remaining are trace gases. So this is the reason that carbon dioxide dominate the global warming. All right. This is the reason that carbon dioxide dominate the global warming. Now, before we switch to ocean acidification, sources of carbon dioxide. The largest emitter of carbon dioxide, and secondly, carbon dioxide mostly that is present is because of anthropogenic factors. Anthropogenic, due to man. Carbon dioxide is majorly produced because of man. Industrial activity, which is the largest source of carbon dioxide? Is it vehicles? Is it transport? No, it's not industries. It is energy supply that accounts for 26% of the carbon dioxide. All right. Second is industries. Industries account for 19% of the total carbon dioxide supply. All right. Followed by third, forestry or forest fires. Forestry or forest fires, 17%. Agriculture, 14%. And vehicles, 13%. These are the different sources of carbon dioxide. Fossil fuel consumption is part of all these. Fossil fuel consumption is part of vehicles, industries, as well as energy supply. I am talking about the sectors of the economy. I am talking about the sectors of the economy. All right. After that, household and residential buildings account for 8%, and remaining 3 is miscellaneous. Abhi thode time ruko, wait for this Diwali time, and please come to Chandigarh, Punjab, Delhi, Haryana region. You see the stubble burning. Oh, tremendous, tremendous. Okay, Ayushi. Yeah. नहीं वैष्णव, आप आइए कभी दिल्ली आइए. All right, come to Delhi and get your life reduced by a few seconds, even if you pass by. You stay in Delhi for 1 year, you will lose some part of your life, certainly. All right. Energy supply means electricity. Electricity production. Natural gas production, petroleum and oil. These are energy supply. And this is the reason that right now the world is looking towards nuclear fusion reaction. The artificial sun, that project is being worked upon. This project, artificial sun, is being worked upon. Yes, ITER, very good, Ashutosh. Yes, International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. It is ITER is a project of multiple countries. India is also part there. Artificial sun has been developed by China recently. United States of America. The largest greenhouse gas emitter is United States of America. All right. Okay. So this is about our greenhouse, climate change, and global warming. Nuclear fusion. The countries are trying to switch to nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion is the cleanest form of energy. Nuclear fusion is the cleanest form. Let us now discuss about ocean acidification. If we talk about ocean acidification, pH, that is known as potential of hydrogen, it is the measure of acidic character of different materials. pH, known as potential of hydrogen, is the measure of, oh great, great, Pritam, great. So pH is the measure of acidic character of any material, and this pH scale was discovered by Soren Sorensen. S. Sorensen or Soren Sorensen. This pH scale ranges from 0 to 14. 7 is the middle. 7 means neutral. 7 is neutral. Neither acidic nor it is base. If the pH is between 7 and 14, this range is basic. And if the pH is between 0 to 7, this range is acidic. It is seen that, it is observed that ocean water is moving from 7 towards 0. All right, ocean water pH. All right, ocean water pH is decreasing, leading to increase in its acidic character. It is leading to increase in its acidic character. All right, there's a decline of the pH. ये correct करना है यहाँ पे. Ocean water currently has a pH of 8 and it is moving towards 7. That is, its basic character is decreasing. And decrease in basic character is same as increasing acidic character. Decrease in basic character is same as increase in acidic character. So the ocean water pH is reducing from its current 8 running towards 7. I think it is presently 7.8. I have to cross verify it, but no need to learn this figure. It will never be asked. Don't worry. All right. Now, what is the impact? Before that, why acidic character increasing? Can anyone tell me? Why is this acidic character increasing? Very good. Excess carbon dioxide, it gets dissolved in ocean water. Ocean water is the sink for excess. It is the sink for excess carbon dioxide. Yes, 93% of excess carbon dioxide goes into ocean water. Acidic character is increasing because you see, बचपन में एक इक्वेशन पढ़ा था हमने, H2O plus CO2 gives you H2CO3. What is H2CO3? Is it carbonic acid? Is it carbonic acid? Yes, it is carbonic acid. H2CO3 is carbonic acid, and because of addition of carbon dioxide into ocean water, its acidic character is increasing. Now the problem is global warming plus ocean acidification. This is the combined problem that global warming will result into ocean acidification, resulting into greater damage than anything. See what is happening. अच्छा एक चीज बताइए मेरे को. Like you drink this cold drink or the soft drink, or you can call them as soda. These cold drinks are fizzy. What is the reason for the fizzy test? What is the reason for that tingy taste of cold drinks or the fizzy taste of cold drink? It is carbon dioxide. Now this carbon dioxide is dissolved in the cold drink which is cold or in the cold drink which is warm. Which cold drink feels more tingy, cold or warm? Cold, because cold water can add up more CO2. However, sometimes it happened that the cold drink bottle was open and it became warm. And once it become warm and the cold drink bottle was open, you cool it again and then you drink. Do you find that fizzy taste? Do you find that fizzy taste again? No, because when the warm water increases, all the CO2 is emitted. All the CO2 is emitted. So CO2 can be added in the water only when water is cold. Right? Now you see, right now ocean acidification is taking because CO2 is added to ocean water. But now with global warming, the temperature of the ocean water will increase. Will it increase? It will increase. This increase in temperature of the ocean water will decrease solubility of CO2. Will decrease the solubility of CO2, right? Rukur, we are coming to it. It is causing it. So, ye CO2, nahi, that CO2, okay, the cold drink one, nahi, that does not have any impact. No, that does not have any impact. It is just, burped out with your burps, no problem. So, increase in the temperature of the ocean water will decrease the solubility of CO2. And if the temperature further increase such that instead of absorbing CO2, the ocean will start emitting CO2. And when this happens, you are dead. When this happens, the ocean water, instead of absorbing CO2, will emit CO2. And then humans are not required for emitting CO2. Why? Ocean will take care of it. Ocean will say, okay, you have warmed me. Ye lo sara carbon dioxide वापस. And the carbon dioxide that will be added to the atmosphere will cause further global warming, further warming of ocean, and it will set up a feedback loop. A positive feedback loop will start, where oceans will contribute, ocean warming will contribute to global warming, and global warming will contribute to ocean warming, and ये दोनों मिलके खल्लास. Game खत्म, टाटा, bye bye. This is what is ocean warming. This is ocean acidification and its association with global warming. Right? So this we have to fear, and we have to prevent the oceans from, or ocean temperature from rising. Some people say that as we hit the 450 ppm concentration of carbon dioxide in atmosphere, this thing will start. And right now we are somewhere close to 440 or 430. So बस 10 और 20 की जरूरत है, कभी ना कभी हो ही जाएगा. There are some solutions. There are some solutions to this that are generally discussed in the advanced course. I'm not going to take it here, but they are known as carbon dioxide sequestration techniques. All right. But don't worry, this is what we have to understand. Problem understand करली solution हो जाएगा भैया, कोई problem. Acidification will decrease. Doesn't matter. Acidification does not have any problem on us. The problem will be with global warming, that acidification will emit carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, and things will become very deadly. Yes. Today you will be getting some PDF. I've asked the institute to disperse some PDF to you people so that you can read, and those PDF contain even the stuff which is more than in the class. So at least you will be benefited. Don't worry. Don't worry. All right. Yesterday I was getting some messages, so I thought that I should reciprocate by giving you some PDF as well. And those PDF are almost equivalent to what everything is asked in the UPSC. For ocean water, it should be 8 or more than 8. For ocean water, pH of 8 or more than 8 is good. Now let's come and talk about ozone and ozone hole. Ozone is an oxygen, क्या बोलते हैं इसको, iso, what do we call as O3, O2 and elemental oxygen. What they are different forms of same atom. Isotope नहीं होगा. No, it's not isotope. No, isotope varies in the number of neutrons. No, it's not isotope. Isobar. No, it's not even isobar. It is isomer, if I'm not wrong. Isomer, है ना? मैं नाम बोल रहा हूँ. आइसोटोन, कुछ भी. आइसोथर्म, बस जो आया वो मन में बोल दिया. जस्ट अ मिनट, लेट मी क्रॉस चेक. नहीं, आइसोमर भी नहीं है. होल्ड ऑन. कोई केमिस्ट्री वाला नहीं बैठा है? Allotropes. Yes. Allotropes. Ozone is an allotrope of oxygen. Different forms of same material. O2, O3. This is oxygen gas, and this is ozone gas. If you look at this structure of the atmosphere, let's say this is Earth, then the first layer of atmosphere is known as troposphere. Then the second layer of Earth's atmosphere is known as stratosphere. This is troposphere. This is stratosphere. And the transition zone between troposphere and stratosphere is known as tropopause. In the atmosphere, the lowest region is made up of a gas that is known as ozone layer. located at the bottom of troposphere. It is located at the bottom of stratosphere, above tropopause. Above tropopause. Right? This ozone layer protect the humans from ultraviolet light emitted by sun. The sun emits ultraviolet light along with visible light, and this ultraviolet light can cause skin cancer. It can damage skin and can cause cancer. So this ultraviolet light is absorbed. This ultraviolet light is absorbed by this ozone layer, and the process. So basically, O2 and O3. This equilibrium is maintained in presence of light. In presence of ultraviolet light, O3 breaks down into O2 and O2 again combined with oxygen and cause form O3. So this light is absorbed. This light is absorbed. Now, due to some chemicals emitted by humans, O3 is destroyed such that this equilibrium shift towards oxygen side. O3 is reduced. O3 concentration is reduced, and this phenomena of reduction in O3 concentration is known as ozone hole. This phenomena in reduction of ozone concentration, this phenomena of reduction in ozone concentration, my dear friends, is known as ozone hole. Right? Now, what are these chemicals? These chemicals are known as CFCs. CFC stands for fluorocarbons. Those carbon compounds that are having a chlorine, fluorine. All right, those carbon compounds that have fluorine and chlorine as well. These are the chemicals that destroy ozone in stratosphere, and this phenomena is known as ozone hole formation. This phenomena is known as ozone hole formation. All right. See, ozone is present in the lowest layer of layer of stratosphere. This ozone absorbs ultraviolet light and convert into oxygen, and at the same time oxygen then joins back and forms ozone. such that there is a perfect equilibrium that is maintained and ultraviolet light is prevented from entering into Earth's atmosphere. All right. So, what is actually happening? I'll just explain you this equation. So, there are two ozone molecules. They absorb the ultraviolet light and form three oxygen molecules. You see, two ozone molecules means 6 atoms of oxygen, and three oxygen molecules also means 6 atoms of oxygen. But this is O3, this is O2. Spontaneously, these three oxygen molecules combine again to form ozone, and this ozone will again absorb the next incoming ultraviolet light. So there is a perfect balance. At the same time, O3 is broken down. At the same time, O3 is formed by absorbing ultraviolet light. लेकिन सोचो, if something can push this equilibrium more towards the oxygen side, then the O3 concentration will come down, and it will result into O3 concentration will come down, and it will result into, my dear friends, what? It will result into ozone hole. Because of this ozone hole, it was realized as a threat to human existence. And all the countries come together and signed the Montreal Protocol to eliminate the use of fluorofluorocarbons. All right, this Montreal Protocol was signed to eliminate the use of CFC, and since we have taken up this initiative, this ozone hole is shrinking. This ozone hole is shrinking. No, Vaishnav, it's not. All right, this ozone hole is shrinking. These fluorofluorocarbons, they were used in cooling or refrigerating industry. The old refrigerators, they were earlier having the gases which included the chlorofluorocarbons, and then they were replaced by hydrofluorocarbons. But now this hydrofluorocarbon is adding in global warming, and therefore we added a change in Montreal Protocol, which is known as Kigali Agreement, where we have decided not to even use the hydrofluorocarbons. So Montreal Protocol prevented us from using chlorofluorocarbons. So they said, okay, don't use chlorofluorocarbons, use hydrofluorocarbons. We started using hydrofluorocarbons, then we found out that hydrofluorocarbons aid in global warming. So Kigali Agreement was added to Montreal Protocol, and even the hydrofluorocarbons have been prevented from being used in refrigerator and cooling industry. This is known as the Kigali Agreement addition to Montreal Protocol that prevent us from using hydrofluorocarbons. Montreal Protocol prevent us from using chlorofluorocarbons. Now this ozone hole, it is a seasonal phenomenon. It is a seasonal phenomena, and it involves some chemical reactions which are part of your advanced course. I'm not going to take up those chemical reactions here, but I can simply tell you that it is the chlorine which is part of chlorofluorocarbons that destroy the oxygen. Sorry, that destroy the ozone. That destroys the ozone. Depends, it has benefited. Yes, it's a free radical reaction, correct. Those of you who have some idea, it is the chlorine free radical that combines with ozone and shift the equilibrium towards oxygen, creating a deficiency of ozone, which is known as ozone hole. Which is known as ozone hole. There are some HFC को replace करने के लिए there are some gases like R12, F14. All right, there are some gases, I don't remember the name precisely now, but you don't know, you don't need to have any knowledge of those names. It's okay, no problem. Yeah, global warming caused by carbon dioxide and ozone is caused by CFC. And Kigali Agreement replaced HFC to which chemical? ये which chemical छोड़ दो, कोई जरूरत नहीं है, don't worry about it. आप पीछे पड़ोगे, आप मानोगे नहीं जब तक मैं आपको बताता नहीं. होल्ड कर दो. All right, that's okay, hold on. There is some R2 gas and some exactly I'll not actually get these names like this, but chalo koi nahi. This ozone hole depletion will be discussed further by your geography teacher. All right, when he'll be taking up stratosphere, I'll tell him that he take care of those alternatives of HFCs. All right, so he'll tell you. Ethylene glycol, yes, ethylene glycol is one of them, correct? Ethylene glycol is one of them. There are many other, right? All right, R20 gas, R2 gas, ethylene glycol is there, right? So that will be done there. Chaliye, so this is the climate change section that I wanted to discuss. You will get this sheet attached to your portals. You can download it from there, and the sheet material that I have asked the institute to provide to you, even that will be provided on the portal. I hope that in the past 4 days with me, you have learned something good, and you have created a sound base. Whatever you will read now, it is going to benefit you, and you can build your strong building upon the foundation that we have created. All right. Anurag, advanced course, right? That will be taken care of in the advanced courses. Don't worry about it. All right. The latest protocols, latest convention, फिर वो उधर करवाएंगे. वो 15 days का तभी तो खिंचता है. बाकी तो हमने कर ही लिया है. Yes, ammonia is also there, an alternative, correct? All right, guys. So that's all from my side. All right, and keep learning. Be high spirited. No, Gagandeep. The black people are black in Africa because there is also no. All right, yeah. So Sonali, I have no idea about as of now. Yeah, right. So that's no. This was the last session on environment. Now your next component will be starting. Those of you that will be conveyed to you by the institute, and we will continue with your next segment tomorrow or whenever the next segment is beginning. So I would like to say that keep learning. All right. Yes, Samir, for environment, this was the last. Keep learning. Be high spirited, read newspaper, read current affairs, learn as much as knowledge you can. All right, because how much knowledge you can acquire, that is going to benefit in the paper. UPSC is unpredictable service commission, and trust me, it is unpredictable. So be ready for any kind of unpredictable question that can come. Right? You will be getting the PDF, this PDF, as well as the PDF related to environment and ecology. So need not worry. All right, you will be getting that PDF attached to your portals. Download it from there. No need to worry. When is the shortest day in India? 22nd December. 22nd December is the shortest day. 21st June is the longest day in India. 23rd March and 23rd September, they are equal days. All right. Ritik Institute knows about that. You should, Samir. You should. Palkoshtika, you can start after 1 year. All right. Khetar Palkoshtika after 1 year. Yes, Saturday 12 p.m. Saturday 12 noon is our current affairs session. So you can join us on YouTube on Saturday 12 noon. Tomorrow 12 noon, I'll be taking the current affairs class on YouTube. You can join our channel and get benefit of that current affairs class as well. Chaliye, that's all from my side, right? All right, okay. Link, it's a YouTube video. You can come on YouTube and watch it. All right, it's always free of any kind of registration or anything, right? Yes. All right, okay. Most probably, Priyanka, yes, most probably. I'm not aware of that. That's all from my side. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. All right, bye.